Greetings, my name is Robert and I am the owner of MARET Systems International, the developer of the MARET Web Project. You're watching video number 4 in the Therapist Builder video series, and the TBS provides expert education for therapists of all levels. All TBS videos are available on the Console Master YouTube channel. You can get to there through the quick client screen. There's a click event on that screen for those. Today is the 8th day of September 2020, and I would appreciate it if you would like, share, and subscribe this video. That does amazing things for our hit rate, and it actually puts us up higher and more people come. So I would appreciate that. We're going to get right into this today. But before we do that, we have to do some stuff with this legal notice. Basically, this just says you're responsible for making your own decisions about how you're going to treat people. There's nothing that I'm going to say that you are mandated to do. I've got some suggestions, some strong suggestions in some places, but you ultimately are responsible for how you use the software. You should be a trained therapist in order to use the software and really to view this material. The whole purpose of the video series is to give you expert training regarding psychological issues, treatment for specific client problems, the use of the MARET Web Project software as a counseling aid, education for therapists who counsel others, detailed discussion about specific psychological issues, and specific MARET Web feature demonstrations and some philosophy. Today, what we're going to do is cover the ABCs of CBT, and we're going to look at cognitive distortions at the end of this video. There's going to be 3 ABCs of CBT videos. This is the first one, and its focus is going to be on a setup for doing the therapy as well as cognitive distortions. The next one is going to be on actual treatment plans, and things to do and things to watch out for. And the last one will be on dysregulation and what to do when you get a client who's having severe issues with reality testing. CBT is an incredible tool to use with that. So, as an introduction, CBT deals with remediation of cognitive distortions. That's what it focuses around. The mechanisms that cause these distortions and treat those cognitive distortions will be the subject of this video and the next video and the one after that. Cognitive distortions are habitual ways of thinking that are often inaccurate, irrational, or negatively biased. They may at times exhibit some disconnection with reality. Individuals suffering from some form of psychosis or psychotic-like symptoms usually exhibit significant cognitive distortions. CBT, as I've already mentioned, is an excellent tool to use with psychosis and schizotypy. We'll deal with that in future videos. At the end of this 3-section ABC videos, and more when we get into schizotypy in particular. Cognitive behavioral therapy is not useful in cases where the individual is not fully engaged. This is really an educational side-by-side effort that you're going to engage in with the client. Without the client buying into the whole CBT process, they're unlikely to benefit much from it. What does it mean for a client to be fully engaged? The client openly and honestly accepts their cognitive distortions and desires to work hard to mitigate them. And by being fully engaged, the client understands their cognitive distortions and can identify them clearly. If you're just talking to them about their cognitive distortions and they're just nodding their head up and down, you're not going to get very far with this method. You'll have to choose some other method to try and counsel them. I think this would be a good place to add a special note. A lot of people say that they do cognitive behavioral therapy, and really what they're just doing is simple talk therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy must include cognitive distortions at the core of understanding what's going on with the person, and it must deal with breaking that cycle with this ABC method that we're about to look at. So unless you follow the ABCs, which are the core of CBT, and focus on cognitive distortions, it's not really cognitive behavioral therapy. It's just talk therapy. There are 4 things that you should probably do to set up this whole process. One is administer the home of origins inventory, and there's really no definitive proof, but it's believed the cognitive distortions have their foundation, at least partly, in home of origin. Cognitive distortions develop over a period of time, and they're a response to some kind of adversity. And by adversity, it does not always indicate abuse. Cognitive distortions can ensue from a home environment even if the home is not completely or substantially dysfunctional. Since home of origins are likely to have some influence on the development of cognitive distortions, it's absolutely imperative that the therapist administers home of origins inventory early in therapy. I'm saying it should be the second wave after first quick test and CBT to get a baseline. The next thing you should do is home of origins. That should be the next, this is probably the second week that you would send this out. And let me back up here, the home environment. Yes, it can be abusive. It can be emotionally, physically abusive. But something a little more out there would be, say you've got identical twins and they're both on the swim team. It's a very positive, uplifting home, but one of the twins constantly is beat by her sibling, her twin, at every swim meet they go to. Every time she loses, she loses, she loses, she loses. What happens after a period of time? She says, I'm a loser. She's just developed a cognitive distortion. She's always in second place, never in first place. And because it's a home where everybody excels at what they do, she's not excelling. That will sometimes create a cognitive distortion. Not an abusive home at all. It's a swim meet. So second week of therapy would be a good time to do home of origins. Defense mechanisms. The defense mechanisms are seen at the top of the cognitive behavioral therapy screens in a pie chart and a summary. It's critically important to do this because extreme manifestations of many cognitive distortions or even a very strong single elevation may be associated with reality testing issues. If you have reality testing issues visible with the client, as the last line says, there are special ways that CBT must be used. You've got to take special considerations. CBT is a very good method of dealing with distorted reality, but you got to know it's there. So you have to understand the cognitive distortions, as the name implies, are distortions of reality to some degree or another. They are irrational at their core, and in some systems they're called irrational beliefs. Next, quick test. I can't say much more other than what is said here. Cognitive distortions, when they arise, it's probable they're going to cause extreme anxiety and depression spikes. You need to know these are happening, going from 105 anxiety to 130 in 1 week because there was an activating event. And we'll get into activating events on the next video. CBT assessment, that should be given the first week, and it has to be re-administered every week. There's 13 items, that's it. The person can go through and just click them off as fast as they can. It's important to do this because you're going to be affecting the client every time you have a session with them. You need to know what was affected, how much change there is, if there's shifting, which sometimes you will see them shifting from one cognitive distortion to another after that other cognitive distortion doesn't work anymore. So there can be a trade-off with cognitive distortions. You're working blind if you don't do session-by-session testing with CBT. Now let's get into a few of the distortions themselves, and I'm not going to do all 13 that the MARET project has. What I am going to do is just a couple of them to give you examples. You can look at the questionnaire, the Cognitive Behavioral Client Assessment, and you'll see all 13 of them fairly well defined in a brief statement. All or nothing thinking. A person has a disagreement with a friend. You're not my friend anymore. It's on or off, all or nothing. Overgeneralization. A person doesn't get picked for a team. I'm not good at sports. And here's the overgeneralization. I can't do anything. After they fail a math test, they say, I'm horrible at math. Well, maybe you got up late, you went to bed late, something happened at home. It might not be that you're horrible at math. It might just be that you had a bad day and had a bad test. Disqualifying the positive. Here you go. They passed the test. They think, I passed it because it was too easy. Mind reading. A coworker is talking with supervisor. You see him off in the distance talking. You say to yourself, they're talking about me. Fortune telling. I'm not going to be able to do what my new job requires. Catastrophizing. My roommate is very late getting home. I'm sure she's been in a serious accident. Minimizing. Just because she sat with me once doesn't mean that she likes me. And the last one we're going to do here is emotional reasoning. I know this person hates me. I can feel it. So this is an overview of the cognitive distortions. Next time we're going to move on to look at the treatment modality for ABCs.